In the autumn of 1872, amid the rolling hills and dense forests of rural Massachusetts stood a sprawling stone building that had once been a grand estate, but now served a darker purpose, a Harrow orphanage for wayward and defective children. To the outside world, it was a beacon of hope in the aftermath of the Civil War, a place where renowned physician Dr. Elias Harrow promised to cure the moral insanity plaguing America's youth. Children labeled as thieves, lunatics, or simply unwanted were sent there for revolutionary treatments. Isolation chambers to quiet the mind, herbal elixirs to purify the blood, and even surgical interventions on the brain to excise the roots of evil. Donors praised Harrow as a visionary. Newspapers hailed him as the savior of a lost generation. But by winter, whispers began to escape the orphanage's high walls. Children were dying under mysterious circumstances, their small bodies withered and aged as if decades had passed in days. Survivors spoke in hushed tones of seeing the doctor absorb something from the dying, a faint glow, a shadowy essence that seemed to make Harrow stronger, younger, more alive. When state investigators finally arrived, they uncovered journals that revealed the horrifying truth. Dr. Harrow believed evil could be extracted from the soul and consumed, granting perfection to those worthy. This is the dark true story of the Harrow orphanage experiments and the man who played God with the lives of the innocent. Before we delve into the shadows of this forgotten horror, make sure to subscribe to Liturgy of Fear, hit that notification bell, and comment your state below. These stories need voices like yours to keep them alive. Now, let us step back to where it all began. The year was 1866. Just 1 year after the bloody end of the Civil War. America was a nation scarred, millions dead, cities in ruins, families shattered. In the North, particularly New England, a wave of reform swept through society. Philanthropists and physicians turned their eyes to the social ills that had festered during the war: poverty, crime, insanity. Orphanages sprang up like weeds, filled with the children of fallen soldiers, destitute immigrants, and the simply abandoned. It was in this era that Dr. Elias Harrow emerged as a rising star in the field of moral psychology. Born in 1825 to a wealthy Boston family, Harrow had studied medicine at Harvard, specializing in what was then called moral insanity, a term coined by Dr. James Cowles Pritchard to describe individuals who committed crimes or exhibited deviant behavior without apparent delusion. Harrow believed this insanity was not spiritual, as the churches preached, nor purely environmental, as reformers argued, but a physical defect in the brain and soul that could be surgically and chemically corrected. His early papers, published in the Boston Medical and Surgical Journal, caused a stir. He argued that criminal tendencies in children, thievery, violence, disobedience were symptoms of a corrupted essence that could be isolated, extracted, and eradicated. Just as we drain poison from a wound, he wrote, so too can we drain evil from the human form. Harrow's ideas gained traction among the elite. He lectured at salons in Beacon Hill, charming wealthy widows and industrialists with his charisma and vision. Tall, with piercing blue eyes and a neatly trimmed beard, he had the look of a prophet, confident, unyielding, with a voice that commanded attention. By 1868, Harrow had secured funding from several prominent donors, including the industrialist Samuel Whitaker, whose own son had been institutionalized for violent outbursts. With their backing, Harrow purchased a derelict estate in the rural town of Ashford, Massachusetts, 40 miles west of Boston, far from prying eyes. The property, known as Blackwood Manor, had been built in the 1790s by a reclusive merchant who died under mysterious circumstances. Locals whispered it was cursed strange lights in the windows, cries in the night, but Harrow dismissed such talk as superstition. He renovated the manor into the Harrow Orphanage, adding high stone walls topped with iron spikes, barred windows, and a basement laboratory equipped with the latest medical instruments, trephines for skull surgery, galvanic batteries for electrical stimulation, and custom-built isolation chambers, dark, soundproof rooms designed to reset the moral compass. The orphanage opened its doors in the spring of 1870. Harrow advertised in newspapers across New England, a sanctuary for the afflicted young, scientific cures for moral defects. No child beyond redemption. The first residents arrived soon after 50 children between the ages of 5 and 15, sourced from workhouses, asylums, and poor farms. They were a mix: orphaned war children with haunted eyes, petty thieves caught picking pockets in Boston, imbeciles deemed unfit for society, and even a few hysterics whose families could no longer cope. Among them was young Emily Cartwright, 12, whose parents had died in a mill fire. Emily was labeled defiant for refusing to work 14-hour days in a factory. There was also Thomas Tommy Hawley, 9, a street urchin with a talent for lockpicking and a history of running from authorities. And little Sarah Wilkins, 7, who spoke to invisible friends and was thought possessed. Harrow welcomed them personally, his blue eyes gleaming with purpose. "Here you'll be reborn," he told them in the grand entry hall, lined with portraits of stern ancestors. "Your flaws will be excised, your souls purified." The staff consisted of a dozen nurses and orderlies, mostly former soldiers or spinsters down on their luck-trained and Harrow-esque methods. They enforced strict routines: dawn prayers, labor in the gardens, lessons in morality, and evening therapies. At first, all seemed well. Donors visited and left impressed. Children wrote letters, dictated by staff, praising the doctor. Harrow published glowing reports. Patient A, formerly a chronic thief, shows marked improvement after herbal regimen. But beneath the surface, the experiments had begun. Harrow's treatments started mildly. Children were given daily elixirs, bitter brews of herbs imported from Europe and South America, belladonna for visions, mandrake for sedation, and stranger plants whose names he kept secret. To cleanse the blood of impure humors, he explained. Then came the isolation chambers. Misbehaving children were locked in pitch-black rooms for days, fed through slots, with only Harrow's recorded voice playing sermons on virtue. "In darkness, the soul confronts itself," he wrote in his private journal. By 1871, he escalated to surgery. Using techniques inspired by European phrenologists, Harrow performed trepanations drilling, small holes in the skull to release pressure on deviant brain regions. He claimed it cured aggression. Survivors emerged docile, vacant-eyed. But whispers among the children grew. Emily Cartwright, in a hidden diary she kept under her bed, wrote, "The doctor comes at night. He watches us sleep. His eyes glow like coals." Tommy Hawley told Sarah, "I saw him take something from Billy after he died, like smoke, going into his mouth." Billy Jenkins, 10, was the first to die officially of fever, according to records. But his body, glimpsed by a nurse before burial, looked wrong, wrinkled, gray-haired, like an old man. More deaths followed, always the troubled ones, always with that impossible aging. By early 1872, the orphanage held over 100 children. Harrow's fame grew. He lectured in New York, secured more funding. But inside the walls, terror reigned. Children vanished from their beds. Screams echoed from the basement. Nurses quit suddenly, pale and shaking. One, a woman named Margaret Poole, fled to Boston and confided in a priest. "The doctor isn't healing them. He's feeding on them." The priest dismissed her as hysterical. But the seed was planted. In March 1872, a state inspector arrived unannounced, prompted by anonymous letters, perhaps from Poole. He toured the grounds, spoke to Harrow, saw smiling children in neat rows. But as he left, a small hand slipped a note into his pocket. "Help us. He's eating our souls," the inspector, shaken, reported to authorities. Investigations began quietly. Meanwhile, inside, the horrors intensified. Children in the isolation chambers emerged changed, not cured, but broken. One boy, after surgery, caged overnight, his hair white, skin sagging. Survivors whispered of seeing Harrow in the infirmary, bending over dying beds, inhaling deeply as a faint mist rose from the children's mouths. Emily's diary. He absorbs it. The evil, he says, is in us. But it's making him stronger, younger. Harrow's journals, locked in his study, revealed his true belief. Evil is not a defect, it's a force. Extract it, consume it, and achieve perfection. The children are vessels. I am the refiner. By summer, death's mounted. 10 children gone in a month. The state could no longer ignore it. In July, investigators returned with warrants. What they found. We returned to the Harrow Orphanage. Spring 1872. The Massachusetts countryside bloomed with false promise wildflowers dotting the fields beyond the stone walls, birds singing in the ancient oaks. But inside, the air grew thick with dread. Dr. Elias Harrow's experiments had evolved from therapies to something far more sinister. Children whispered of the basement laboratory, the clank of metal instruments, the bitter smell of elixirs, the muffled screams from behind locked doors. By now, 15 residents had died officially of congenital weaknesses or unresponsive to treatment. But the bodies, hastily buried in the orphanage cemetery, told a different story to those who dared look. Tiny frames withered like autumn leaves, faces lined with age, hair turned silver. Survivors like Emily Cartwright documented it in hidden scraps of paper. Little Annie was 8 yesterday. Today she looks like grandmother. The doctor took her light. This is the harrowing account of the treatments, and a night the children fought back. Before we enter the isolation chambers and witness the soul extractions, subscribe to Liturgy of Fear, ring the bell, and share your state in the comments. Your engagement keeps these forgotten horrors alive. Now, let us descend into the methods of madness. Harrow's regimen began innocently enough. Upon arrival, each child underwent an assessment, a long interview in his oak-paneled study, where he probed their histories with clinical detachment. "Tell me of your sins," he would say, his blue eyes unblinking. "We will root them out together." Based on this, he classified them. Thieves for isolation, violence for surgery, hysterics for elixirs. The herbal treatments came first. Brewed in the basement apothecary, they were administered daily in tin cups. The base was a mix of opium for calm, digitalis for the heart, and rare imports. Ayahuasca from the Amazon for visions. Ibogaine from Africa for soul cleansing. Harrow believed these unlocked the essence. Children reported hallucinations, shadows whispering secrets, faces in the walls. But afterward, they felt empty, drained. Tommy Hawley wrote in a smuggled note, "The drink makes you see your bad deeds. Then the doctor comes and takes them away." But he takes more than that. Isolation followed for resistant cases. The chambers were Harrow's invention, small, windowless cells in the cellar, lined with cork to block sound. Children were locked in for days, sometimes weeks, with only water and bread slid through a slot. In darkness, Harrow played recordings, his voice on phonograph cylinders, repeating mantras. "Evil is a parasite. Surrender it to me." Many emerged broken, compliant. But some changed. Their skin paled. Wrinkles formed at the corners of eyes, as if time accelerated in the void. Sarah Wilkins, after 10 days, looked 15 instead of 7. She babbled. "He came in the dark, breathed in my fear. It went into him like smoke." Surgery was the final stage for the incurables. Harrow, assisted by loyal orderlies, performed in a tiled operating theater. Using chloroform, he drilled into skulls, removing deviant lobes based on phrenology maps. Post-op, children were bandaged and confined. Recovery was miraculous, no more outbursts. But at what cost? One nurse, Eliza Thorne, confided in a letter home, intercepted later. The boy Johnny after the drill, his face aged like fruit rotting, and the doctor, he seemed taller, more vital. By mid-1872, deaths escalated. Bodies showed impossible aging. Organs shriveled, bones brittle as an elder's. Harrow explained it as essence overload, the evil consuming the host. But in his private journals, the truth, the extraction is complete. Their corruption nourishes me. I feel the years reverse. Survivors saw it happen. During final rites in the infirmary, Harrow bent over dying beds, inhaling deeply. A faint mist glowing faintly rose from the child's mouth into his. Emily, it's their life, their youth. He steals it. Children rebelled quietly. Notes passed under doors. Plans whispered in the yard. Tommy organized a group. We escape tonight. Before he takes us all. But Harrow knew. That night, alarms rang. Orderlies rounded them up. To the basement. What happened next would seal the orphanage's fate. We delve deeper into the Harrow Orphanage, summer 1872. The rebellion had failed. Tommy Howley and his group, caught before they could scale the walls, were dragged to the basement. Screams echoed through the halls. Dr. Harrow stood waiting, his face calm, almost serene. Defiance is the ultimate corruption, he said. It must be extracted. As punishments intensified, state investigators closed in, drawn by anonymous tips and growing rumors in Ashford Town. But what they found in the journals would expose not just murder, but a philosophy of soul-devouring horror. This is the account of the unraveling, and the night the children confronted their tormentor. Subscribe now, hit the bell, and comment your location. These tales thrive on your curiosity. Now, let us face the extraction. The basement was a labyrinth of stone corridors, lit by flickering gas lamps. The operating theater gleamed with steel. Isolation chambers lined one wall. The apothecary bubbled with potions. Tommy and 5 others were strapped to tables. Harrow circled, knife in hand. Not surgery tonight, he murmured. Direct essence transfer. He began with the youngest, a boy of 6. As the child screamed, Harrow leaned close, inhaling. The mist rose. The boy withered before their eyes. Harrow straightened, eyes brighter. Pure, invigorating. The others watched in horror. Emily, locked in a chamber nearby, heard it all. Word spread. More children died that week aged to dust. Nurses fled. One, Eliza Thorne, went to the authorities in Boston. He's killing them. Eating their souls. Investigators led by Inspector Samuel Grant, a war veteran, arrived in August. They posed as donors first, touring the grounds. Children stared with hollow eyes. Harrow charmed, but Grant noticed the cemetery fresh graves too many for an orphanage. With a warrant, they returned at dawn. Chaos. Children locked in dorms. Staff barricaded. Harrow in his study, burning papers. They broke in. The basement search revealed horrors. Bodies in various states of decay, all aged unnaturally. Instruments caked in blood. Elixirs labeled Essence Concentrate. And the journal's hundreds of pages. Harrow's writings. Evil is energy. Consume it, transcend mortality. The children provide abundantly. Detailed experiments. Dates, names, yield of essence. Cliffhanger. As they arrested Harrow, a final ritual began in secret. We conclude the Harrow Orphanage saga, fall 1872. Investigators had Harrow in chains. But as they searched, screams rose from the basement. A final extraction underway. Rushing down, they found him. Free orderlies loyal to the end had released him. On the table, Emily, mist rising. Grant shot Harrow, ending the ritual. But the damage was done. This is the aftermath and the lingering curse of moral perfection. Subscribe, Bell. Comment your state. Share if you dare. Now, the reckoning. Harrow died that day, body aged suddenly, as if all consumed essence fled. Journals revealed his delusion, Inspired by war horrors, he sought to perfect humanity by devouring imperfection. Orphanage closed. Survivors scattered, many aged prematurely, dying young. Blackwood Manor burned in 1873 arson by unknown hands. But legends persist. Harrow's spirit wanders, absorbing essences still. In 1905, a similar orphanage in Vermont reported aging deaths. Journals mentioned Harrow's method. The evil lives on. This story warns, playing God with souls invites damnation. What do you think? Was Harrow mad or onto something?